to The Walking Dead reviewed on What the Flick. It's been a while. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
We enjoyed
Valentine's
it with
Day.
explosions. We're back with Season 6, Episode 9. This is Tim, Francis, I am Kim. No way out. Is there no way out, or is there a way out? Through friendship. Let's talk about the episode.
Mind-blowing a little bit. Like, I understand before we get into it, there's going to be criticisms. I loved it. It was one of my favorites.
No, you and I were chatting before this, and yes, there are problems. There are gaping plot holes. But this is a good episode overall. I really enjoyed what I saw, and a lot of it was really satisfying, particularly scenes where we see, I'm going to zoom to the end right now? No, I'll do it later. Go ahead.
But the overwhelming theme that I've seen that I'm going to point out first is many criticisms are talking about the lack of realism. I will take lack of realism any day over bumbling, stupid decisions that aren't necessary and just in for forced drama. Like Daryl struggling to fight one walker, that one scene a couple episodes ago.
Right.
I'll take this any day of a strategic group battling a mass amount of zombies. I will take that. That doesn't speak to me as a lack of realism. That speaks to me as good strategy. This is like the Trojans when they used to fight battles. They just came together as a forced group and kind of built a barrier. I had no problem with that. I'm not going to sit there and nitpick about whether or not it's realistic. It's not historic scrolls. It's a show based on a comic book, so people need to relax.
And there were some fun comic-inspired scenes. I mean, this did follow comics pretty well, but there were scenes that literally looked like comic books, particularly toward the end. I'll talk about it later. It's killing me not to talk about it now.
Should we start with the cold open?
Yes,
the best
we have,
scene in The Walking Dead so far?
I was
You think so?
surprised.
It's up there.
I audibly gasped.
It was
but now that
predictable, but satisfying. Oh, so satisfying.
It was great.
Yeah. But now that Daryl has a missile launcher, he thinks every problem can be solved with a missile
And
launcher.
he's not wrong. Maybe overkill for lighting the lake on fire when a match would have done the trick. But RPG to the lake, that's fine. That's fine.
We're
Whatever.
working in a time game right now.
To talk on that point as well, to kickstart things, like, after the way the season was going, I just thought it was a breath of fresh air. I just thought they were literally saying, you know what? Fuck all these complaints about us not having the balls to go and kill people and us not having the balls to just go ahead and make this entertaining.
Well, that's something I do want to talk about. I mean, I'm with you because I was feeling the fatigue going to this, like, oh no, not another slow episode. This was a fast, action-packed episode. Fantastic on that front. However, I mean,
there's flaws. I know there's flaws.
There are major flaws in this.
There's not but then there's people that will nitpick the day going to night. One major flaw that we can just touch on is Sam's death, right? People are saying it was unjust, it was gruesome, it was harsh on the camera because we didn't see the death with the two young girls.
I disagree with it.
It was
with that assertion.
Yeah,
I think I liked that. I needed to see that death because, you know, death is visceral. Death isn't sparing anyone, and it hurts. I mean, we did see previously with Mika and her sister dying. Yeah. It was off camera, though I do think that was more of a director's choice, and it still burned and stung that those little girls died.
It didn't make it any less harsh. You thought about what happened. It was enough to make it horrible. Noah's death was probably one of the worst I've seen. And what, 10 years? I think he was still considered a kid trying to find his way. His death was awful. Sam's death, people are saying it was unjust, it was unneeded. I think his death is to signify the repercussions of Carol's actions. That's just my thoughts. I know Carol basically told him, toughen up, kid, you really need to but she said it in a way like, the monsters are going to come for you. Like, he was petrified by that. You could see that it played into the part of him not being ready for it.
We're jumping into one of the greatest contrasts that we showed in this episode and the previous episode, which is the power struggle between Morgan and Carol and what they both represent. One is, you know, cut away the weak, only the strong survive. The other one is maybe there's something worthwhile. Maybe we can win with kindness. Maybe we can win with goodness. And as we discussed, I'm pretty sure I was on the side of, oh, goodness, we'll never win. Yeah. But in this episode, we saw Denise and Gabriel showing strength, ultimately, through kindness. And we did see Carol have that scene where she was going to take out the wolf that had abducted Denise. He says, go, you know, pretty much sacrificing himself for her. And she realizes, whoa, I was wrong.
After Carol put 2 shots in
I was wrong, Morgan was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you read into that Carol thing in a way that I agree with. I'm not totally sure that she's changed her mind right in that moment. But it does stick to the theme of the episode, which is I changed. Everybody in the episode changed, even Rick, which is something that hasn't happened in a really long time. So we had the little ones like Enid and Eugene and Gabriel, little changes, but now they're on board. You know, Eugene says, you know, today is not a day.
They're gonna talk about this, tell stories about this. No one clocks out.
Yeah, that was good. And then you had Denise.
I really love her. After
She's
this
great.
episode.
She's great, but she needed that exchange with the wolf to be present to save Carl at the end. So does that make Morgan's actions justified from the beginning? Will Carol see it that way?
I think it's not black and white.
No, unlike Morgan and Carol, not black and white. Gray areas.
Okay.
So anyway, Francis.
But I agree. Like so the overwhelming theme is that they weren't right from the start. Like Rick has this epiphany. He has this point of view now that the Alexandrian community could be of help, right? Because we see the harsh reality of young kids, Sam, and how ill prepared they were. But we see some of the community start to have that realization that we cannot just sit back and allow things to happen. We need to go ahead and change. So I think it's a combination of what the likes of Carol and Rick have stood by with a combination of what Morgan stands by. You can't survive in this world without your humanity. That's it. You need to have some sort of humanitarian point of view. You need to have something that you can cling on to. People said that Rick was on a suicide mission when he went outside to just start chopping up zombies, and it was because of anger of what happened to Carol. No, a lot of the walkers were coming towards the house. He was acting as a decoy. If he died and helped to divert some of the characters, some of the zombies away from the house, then that's what the price he was willing to pay. Like, he had a purpose for it. It wasn't just a suicidal decision. All his horrible actions in the past helped make that happen, as well as a realization that the community could be saved.
And as a testament to director Greg Nicotero, all of that was communicated wordlessly. Like, you saw him carry Carl in. He looks outside. He sees the zombies. He goes immediately out. Some of my people might say, well, Rick, what are you doing? You can't go out there. But it's obvious to everyone that this is the only way that you buy time for the people inside the house.
Yeah.
And then every other character recognized that and help out. And people from other houses came out to help out. And the community changed.
You know, I was really worried about Gabriel taking Judith.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that was a dicey
Oh no,
prospect.
that baby is done for.
Yeah.
But then he really came through. It was a great surprise. He had this great line. We've been sitting here praying, asking God to save us. Our prayers have been answered. He's given us the courage to save ourselves, which I think finally galvanizes, what we considered to be the weak Alexandrians to run out of their homes, join the fray. I did like looking at the alternate ways of dealing with shock and grief, going back to Glenn's speech early on to Enid, which is about people who had died, people you love, they still get to live if you live on and push on. I think that's of great comfort to anyone who's going through grief and having a hard time with it. I just get a little choked up.
I got a little teary-eyed when he mentioned all the past, and he mentioned Herschel and all the group. Like, that was good to mention them. He didn't mention T-Dog, though. I wanted to hear T-Dog in there. Either way, minor flaws. I thought it was a good, you just mentioned it, hit the nail on the head, Kim. It was a combination of how you can help channel the realization of this world through words, or from just badass actions and going out and facing it head on. Like,
you gotta live, you gotta push.
How many conversations have people had with Eugene? How many? They've had these conversations where, like, you need to be stronger, and he's like, I can't. But then when faced into no other option, he chooses to go in and bind together and be a strong unit. That, for me, overshadows all the flaws. I don't care about whether it's realistic that they could kill all those zombies. Glenn fell on top of a body and found his way into a dumpster. I don't care, because it's still entertaining, and it still pushes the overwhelming story arc still overthrows the realism of this show. Still overthrows it, and that's why I don't nitpick at how logistical it is to kill that amount of zombies. They've been living in this world for how many years now? They're all very well trained, and I could still believe it enough to the fact that they could push their way through and be strategic.
I'm going to take one cue from that and talk about my last point, which is actually a little bit of, I said on the top, I like this episode. It's not a perfect episode. I think we're pushing Glenn's death too much. At this point, is it to make it seem inevitable, or is it to make us seem confused, or maybe lulled into a false sense of security? It seems like they're being very overt with the idea of Glenn could die at any time now, especially with Negan joining. I mean, he's been mentioned. I do not. Also, going back to the top, do you think it was a good idea they blew up Negan's crew?
Well,
I think that might come back.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. What other choice did they have? They had to use maximum force.
It was fucking awesome.
It was.
But this is gonna bite them on the ass.
That said, that actor in that scene, really good, and I miss him
he did a
already.
great job.
Yeah,
He
and
did.
You got a nibble.
Another
You
minor
just want to
flaw.
nibble on it.
Another minor flaw of him as well is that guy was it was forced drama by lifting his gun and lifting it down. Like, these people were sociopaths. Like, do you know how many decisions they have gone through their head at the same time? I'm going to kill you, but I'm not. I'm going to kill you, but I'm not. I didn't care. Still
He's
bought into
fucking
it.
with them. He's
Exactly.
fucking with them beautifully.
Exactly.
They were horrifying.
Exactly. That is.
I feel like we're getting fucked with like that a lot. Like
Yeah.
it's starting to be a little tiresome. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode.
But yeah, to go-
I did like the overarching message about grief, about pushing on, about moving forward, about being a community, about working together. All positive, all wonderful. I
But
liked it.
To your point on Glenn, I know we're jumping back and forth, but that's how
That's
action-packed
okay.
this
It's
episode
okay.
was. Me and Tim were talking about it off screen as soon as we came in. It had all the ingredients to be a death on the show. That's why
sure.
I like, as much as they keep proposing this, it still keeps dragging me in. I still thought he was going to die. Like, we had Maggie screaming bloody murder. She was right there.
She's
to see
done
him.
it a few times,
She's done it a
though.
few times, and I just
She's
but-
really good at it. To her credit, she's good at it.
And if you're telling me that whether you watched the show and you're nitpicking it, if you didn't think that was amazing when they just started blasting, like, fair enough, he could have probably been shot at that point, but I trust I trust Abraham's shot at that point. I think he's experienced enough, and I was not worried at all once they appeared. And I liked that turn of events. I still got a kick out of it, no matter how unrealistic it was.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I will say that the tension around that scene was a lot more natural
Yes.
and a lot realer than when Maggie had to climb that tower and the thing with the balloons and
I agree.
it seemed very manufactured. This was real, like, we have to go now. I have to do this. They're going to knock over the tower. Whatever, just start shooting. Fine, do it. Great.
One thing that I was going to ask you guys, did you not think that either Gabriel or Enid was destined to die at this point?
I
'Cause
thought
we
Gabriel
always-
was gonna mess it up.
Well, no, he didn't just mess it up. It seems when we are given the example of someone finding some sort of rejuvenation and seeing things clearly, they'll die. Like, Enid, as soon as she said,
Oh, that's the next episode.
yeah, that's what
Character
I had.
development is
messed
death.
up this
I had
formula.
myself kind of prepared for that, but again, that was what the show did. They started off the episode by saying, "See all you critics that say we don't do enough? Take that. We're going to kill off a full family at the start of the episode." Like,
This
just
is the first
Called that, by the
regular
way. Called it.
episode of what
I
the
didn't
fuck
think it
is
was gonna
Walking
Play
Dead.
the clip. I called it. They're only ever moments away from fucking up to the point of they're going to die.
Do you think Sam and Ron have a chance in this scenario
No,
or not so
zero.
much?
That's fine.
One thing we haven't talked about before we go, Carl's lost a goddamn eye.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't read the comics, but I guess that was.
was a thing.
It was a little bit different, but it did happen.
Yeah.
The way, well, not the way, but it happened is
Yeah.
the point.
What did you think? I just.
And
I mean,
we have
I
this
was
tearful
breath-
speech from Rick, feeling things he's never felt before. And I think in a lot of ways, this episode brought back the visceral fear that I'd been missing for a while.
Yeah, I
On
think
the
that's
same page as Rick.
that is true. I felt like he could have went either way. Rick could have taken what happened there as a clear example once more of the weakness of Alexandra. His son lost his eye as a direct result of citizens of Alexandria not knowing how to act. The kid, the mother didn't know how to react to the kid. I don't think anyone knows how to react at that point. And then one of our other sons, which I don't blame him, he's just lost his mother, his father, and his
Oh, I
brother just shoots.
absolutely
Well, I
blame
blame him, but I understand why he. And he's only a kid. There's only one thing he thinks is this is a direct result of Rick coming into my community. That's all he's thinking. We know it's not, but you got to think about it.
No, if that was the case, he would have
I-
shot Rick. You know, the guy
he
that
tried
killed
to
his
shoot- he
dad.
tried
I
to
think
shoot
he
Rick.
No, he
was
tried
trying
to
to
shoot
shoot Rick.
Carl
No.
because
No,
he
no,
was
no,
an
no, no,
angsty
no.
Tried to shoot
teenager
Rick.
that
Tried to
took his
shoot
girlfriend.
Rick.
He tried to
You
shoot
think so?
Rick. Yeah, he did.
missed when Michonne like
Michonne stabbed him. Yeah, he
stabbed
tried to shoot
him,
Rick.
catch that at all.
and then he went
I
and
guess
hit
that's just what I
Carl.
wanted. I wanted
You
him
wanted-
to be shooting Carl.
Oh, I think it was heavily telescoped that
Yeah.
he would be trying.
Yeah,
to
if he
go
had
after
two
Carl.
bullets, he would have shot both. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would have for sure died anyway.
Yeah,
But that's what I mean. Like Rick.
I was so frustrated with the family in that
I
scene.
know.
Well,
It's kind of
frustrated no
poorly
more.
they handled
They're
it.
all dead.
Someone wrote an article that shows how messed up we are as a society when people were cheering at a 10-year-old boy dying. Like,
I
people
didn't
were-
cheer at that.
but
It was
people
just
were.
like you have
It
to
was a good
stop.
scene. It was a good death.
Yeah.
It made me go, oh, I didn't, wow.
I had no
like, I
idea.
knew he was going to die, but like that came out of nowhere. He was just getting eaten.
Yeah, it was, and
So
I,
good.
Exactly as Carol foretold.
Yeah.
and so that's what I'm saying.
Now that secret goes to his grave. No one knows Carol's secretly a badass except for everyone now.
But that's what I'm saying. Could you not have seen Rick go the other way then and still be just as, and
I
even take
think
it
he
to the next
did.
level? So,
He did for a few moments, and then he was like, gotta save my son, gotta get outside. Everyone else joined him, and he's like, oh, They are ready. They can change.
Yeah.
We are a community now. Look at these people helping to save my son.
Well, they're going to have to come together because what I hear from Negan, it's pretty fearsome.
Yeah, he's not a
nice guy.
Not big on mercy. So we'll find out about that soon. Thanks for watching this very long review of the mid-season premiere of The Walking Dead. We'll catch you next time.